I've said it so much I almost thought, I won't preach this morning because I've said this so much, but then I realized that you could say something 100 times and somebody will not have heard it. So Jesus doesn't do miracles for the sake of the flesh. Jesus does miracles for the sake of the Spirit. Jesus doesn't feed 5,000 people so that they're not hungry in their bellies anymore. He feeds 5,000 people so that they hunger for the bread of life. He doesn't heal the withered man's hand for the sake of industry. He heals the withered man's hand so that people know that he can forgive sins, right? In the same way, this official comes to Jesus and says, "My son is dying, he's sick and he's dying." And Jesus just isn't interested. He's like, quit asking for, doggone it, people. Quit asking for signs. You saw some stuff I did in Jerusalem. You know I can do this stuff. Stop asking for signs and start believing in me and the reason why I'm here. But the man persists, and so he heals him. And people, especially today, sentimental as we are, we are totally more inclined to side with the sad party, even if they're wrong, than the people who are right, simply because the other side is sad, right? We have this misappropriation of empathy that we do, and it's called sentimentality, and it's not very good for this sort of thing. And so that sort of modern day person would say, "Gosh, Jesus is really mean. He just wants his son to live." Jesus is Lord of the living and the dead. The fact that this kid's going to die doesn't bother Jesus because he knows he's going to die and he knows what he's going to do with him. He's got it in hand, right? He just wants the man to trust him, right? But the man doesn't have that level of trust, right? Not yet. So Jesus, playing the game for which he plays it, the game of souls, he says, "Okay, fine, go. Your son's, I'm not gonna have sparkles come out of my hands. I'm not gonna even go there. I'm just gonna, you go. Your son's fine. Your son's healed. Go." Right? So the guy goes back and his son is healed. And everybody's all really impressed. But the important thing here is this penultimate line. The father realized that just at that time Jesus said to him, "Your son will live." And he and his whole household came to believe. For Jesus, that was worth it. It wasn't worth it to save the kid's life. Death is not that big a deal, folks. Many people of most of y'all's generation spend their days and nights simply trying to stay alive, trying to avoid death, taking the next medicine, doing the next therapy, getting the next surgery. Everybody is terrified of death. And here Jesus is saying, I'm not doing this. What I'm doing has nothing to do with the fact that this kid is going to die. Nothing at all. It has to do with gaining your faith. I want you to believe in me so that when you do die, you can live and you don't have to be afraid of death. Where are you in this? Are you afraid of death? Is your friendship with Jesus so constricted that it's only right here in this space and it's not out there where real life happens? And so you're afraid of death? How do you grieve when you grieve the loss of someone who's died? Does it shatter your life? Does it incapacitate you that all of the rest of your life in this world has no more flavor? Guys, Jesus is Lord of the living and the dead. Death is just an instrument that he uses as a final medicine, a remedy for souls who love him. If you love him, you don't have to be afraid. We do, in fact, grieve lost loved ones, and that's a good thing. Jesus himself wept at the tomb of Lazarus, his friend, even though he knew he was going to raise him from the dead. He was like, "Oh man, Lazarus died. That's sad. Lazarus is alive." This is the way the Lord sees death. He does grieve with you when you lose somebody you love. He does. Not because they died, though, but because it was sad that they had to die. Because it was sad that for a while you're going to be without them. And Jesus is sympathetic to that sorrow. He gets it so much. I know that that's sad when you lose somebody. And he even says, I can appreciate that it's scary when you yourself approach the precipice of death. Jesus was in such agony over the sins of humanity and the payment he was going to have to make for humanity that he sweat blood in the garden. But none of these fears, none of these apprehensions, none of these sorrows keep Jesus from always keeping his Father in the forefront of his mind, in the depth and center of his heart. None of these fears dissuade him from doing what is right and just and necessary. None of them cause him to lose friends, but in fact bind him tighter to his friends, more closely to his friends. That kind of suffering builds community rather than tearing it down. Right? So don't seek signs in the way that Jesus is reprimanding the people from seeking. Don't beg the Lord that he heals your friend from whatever illness they happen to be suffering, and then get upset and despondent when he doesn't and they die. Remember David. His first son with Bathsheba got sick. David fasted for many days while the child suffered, and as soon as the child died, David got up, put his clothes on, and started eating lunch. And they're like, "What are you doing, David?" Because this is shocking, right? I mean, this is odd behavior. And David said, "Well, while my son was suffering, I suffered. I offered sacrifice. He's no longer suffering. He's in the hand of the Lord, and I can go about my business. I can go on with what we need to do." Right? That's the kind of trust that David had in the Lord for this bastard son of an illegitimate relationship. Right? The kid, by all accounts, the kid wasn't worth anything to anybody. But of course, David, he was his father, and he loved him, and so he fasted for him when he was sick. The kingdom didn't grieve over the loss of the son; David did. And then when the time for sacrifice was over, he got up and moved on. Right? So we don't look for signs. We don't say, "Lord, I want you to heal me," or I want you to heal my friend. And then when it doesn't happen, we say, "Lord, why haven't you heard me?" Here's the thing. You're already talking to him. You're doing what he wants you to do, right? He's winning. You know, and how many times after we get what we want do we forget the one who gave it to us, right? Okay, you're suffering, I get it, but if I heal you, you'll say thank you for a minute, and then you'll go back about your day and you'll forget me. I don't want you to forget me, so I'm going to let your knee keep hurting, because then you'll keep talking to me, and that's what I want. And then when you die, your knee won't hurt anymore, and you'll be with me forever. It'll be great. Right? This is the way that God sort of interacts with us. Absolutely sympathetic to our plight. Absolutely sympathetic to what hurts us, what ails us, what makes us sad. He understands. He gets it. He even took on flesh so that he could be like, "Yes, look, I get it. I did all those things, and I understand. And yes, they're hard. Yes, they're sorrowful. Yes, I grieve with you." But he also takes this dispassionate approach of almost dismissal at the things when we don't understand that the things we think are a big deal aren't a big deal to God. He's like, "I got this. Calm down. I'm not gonna do parlor tricks for you, for just so that your son can live another couple of years. I will, however, do a miracle for you so that you and your entire household will believe in me, because that's what I want. Because you're all eventually going to die. And the question then remains, where are you going to be when you die? I want you to be with me. So I'll do whatever it takes for you to have faith in me, but I'm not going to do anything for the sake of the world, for the sake of temporal things that pass." Right? We have to work to gain that perspective. It's a divine perspective, so we have to ask for it as a gift. To understand God's priorities, to see things within the perspective of eternity, to be able to say, God, what do you have and what is left up to me? God, what should I ask you for? And Lord, what should I simply leave to your providence? Right? These are gifts. They're gifts of the Holy Spirit that we have to ask him for. The gift of counsel, the gift of understanding, the gift of knowledge. Right? To engage the world in a mature way, and by mature I mean not an adult human maturity, but a divine princely maturity. Oh yes, Lord, I understand. I shall continue to endure this for the time, until such a time as you deem fit to remove it from me, because at that point it will be for my benefit and not before. Right? That's hard. That's a hard thing to do, but that's what we look for. And Jesus teaches us kind of how to do that and how he prioritizes these things through all of the examples in Scripture. But most importantly, every time he works a miracle, look for the reason he works the miracle, not the effect of the miracle, and you will start to gain that eternal perspective